Welcome to His and Hers Perspectives.
All right, so let me just jump back. I'm reading from my phone here, but I know there's some other stuff I have here. I'm gonna just probably pull up, not many, but a few other things to pull up. We can carry on from that. But back to Black. I'm reading from this document here. If you guys can see, well, it's a long document, but carrying on, it goes, Black and African American or Afro-Caribbean, Afro-Latino racial categories are internationally recognized as Civiliter Mortuus, which is dead in the eyes of the law. So again, when you are ticking that you are Black American, Black African, Black Caribbean, you are telling them, I am identifying myself as civilly dead in the eyes of the law. Right? Just like even when we have to fill out applications, you remember that one time and we was like, we don't see our group here. And the woman was like, oh, but you're American. So Black American. Oh, I'm so sorry that we don't have Black American. You were like, no, I'm not Black. No. She's like, yes, what part of Africa? Like you're, and we're like, ma'am.
Right.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, no, of course I do. I mean, it's to the point to where, listen, especially modern day, everybody is pretty much under this spell. You know what I'm saying? Because just to put it blatantly, we were all born into this. And unless you actively clawed your way outside of that thought paradigm and then found yourself and found your way to a more appropriate level of thinking, then you would continue to be considered that misnomer term, which is Black. Because I mean, there was a point where, of course, I was identifying myself as Black. I was identifying myself as African American. I was identifying myself as all of these terms, and I was basically perpetuating the paper genocide that pretty much continued to make us dead at law.
Exactly. And as you know, with these human rights and stuff like that, this documentation that we found and we archive, it even says, how can the United Nations protect a family that is dead at law? Because remember, everything runs by the law. So when you guys are seeing, again, people like of our nation being mistreated and their families are not really getting any
justice. No justice. Right.
And then you guys wonder why we ain't even getting no reparations. It's like, you guys are identified as descendants of slaves, just like Roger Taney says. People from slaves and descendants of them, they're not considered part of the people. So when the 14th, what did the 14th Amendment try to include?
Yeah, tried to include, but it was also some deceptive language in that as well. So it created a form of legal slavery in a sense, because that's whenever they started dealing with imprisonment and things of that nature, which is a whole nother conversation anyway.
Yeah. But I'm trying to keep it a little bit light today.
Right. So, I mean, just know that these terms, they are very precise in how they design the system that we're in. And, there are no mistakes as to why these terms and definitions mean what they mean.
And what do they say? Ignorance of the law is no excuse.
No excuse.
Just because you don't know. Oh, well. Get to knowing, right?
Yep, it will be used against you. If you do not know, it will be used against you. So you better get to know. I want you to pause right now, stop whatever it is you're doing, and make sure to like the video. Everybody, hit that like button. It's free. It don't cost you nothing.
Yes.
It don't cost you nothing at all.
It don't cost you anything. And even subscribing, it don't cost you anything. And when you subscribe, you want to hit that notification button so that you get notified every single time we drop. Right. So let me carry on. It says, civilly dead, dead in the view of the law, the condition of one who has lost his civil rights and capacities and is accounted dead in law. Compounding this problem is when Black and African American or Afro Caribbean or Afro Latina, etc., change their commercial status in accord with international standards of race and ethnicity and claim their indigenous standing or indigenous heritage. They still face violations of their indigenous and human rights. As per the United Nations Council Resolution 2922, it says, convinced that the family, as the fundamental group of society and the natural environment for the growth and well-being of all its members, and particularly children, should be afforded the necessary protection and assistance so that it can fully assume its responsibility within the community, reaffirming that a family is the natural and fundamental group unit of society and is entitled to protection by society and the state. But if you are civilly dead, how is the Black family going to be protected by the what I'm saying, society and the state?
So, I mean, in a nutshell, as far as that, what that pretty much means and what this whole thing is all about is we were identified as Black through the lens of white supremacy. And through that, they were able to draft laws that diminished our status because of this new identity that they created for us. Now, before we were identified as that, we were something else.
Yes.
Right? We were something else before we were identified as that. But fast forward that to present day, we all seem to simply identify as the term that they coined that they coined for us. And it's very detrimental to us as a people to go along with that narrative. We have to get back to our identification for ourselves. We have to understand what we were identifying as prior to colonialism. We have to identify what we were, before we made contact with, the white races, if you will, the Europeans, the British, the Dutch, and all of that. You know what I mean? Before colonialism, what were we?
If you're appreciating the content and would like to show your support, consider becoming a channel member or sending a super chat, super sticker, super thanks, or alternatively, sending a cash app to #his/hers perspectives. Right. And also here it says, those of Black and African American racial category have no domestic nor international rights and protections.
Right.
Also, it says, go on, babe. Sorry.
Right. Now, I was going to say another thing that I wanted to say is a lot of times we falsely identify that everyone who is quote unquote Black are African or of African descent. So another interesting excerpt that I wanted to get at is a definition from the 1828 Webster's Dictionary. You can pull that up.
Is it this one?
That's it. Right.
That's it. It says American, noun, a native of America, originally applied to the Aboriginals or copper-colored race found here by the Europeans. I can never say that word, but now applied to the descendants of Europeans born in America.
Right.
So this is from the Webster's Dictionary,
1828 Webster's Dictionary. So now, in that definition, it is identifying the Aboriginal people that were found on the landmass of the Americas prior to the Europeans being there. And if you can see, not once did it say black, because of course nobody is black, if you will. You know what I mean? Like this,
brown.
right? This right here is black. Nobody is black. It said the copper colored individuals that were found there. Right. So again, the Aboriginal inhabitants of America before colonization, there were copper colored individuals that were found there. And that's the definition of the original Americans. So that's just a little bit of food for thought right there.
Please be sure to engage with the content by leaving a comment, hitting the like button, sharing, and subscribing if you're not already subscribed. And if you would like for us to discuss a particular topic, then go ahead and send us an email at hisandhersperspectives@gmail.com.